Thank you very much. Um, so I want to start just because Marie wasn't here last week, just to kind of hear, Marie, if you can add to your thoughts about how it went when you guys did that station teaching and when you were working on the mini lesson in class.
Okay, we actually did 2 days of mini lesson,
Hmm.
and the students did the listen to the mini lesson, then did group work, and then we did a group share. So
Right.
I thought it went really well. We didn't do it in a center station format. It didn't seem to lend itself to that
That's fine.
after we kind of got rolling with it. But it's um, now being embedded in the classroom all the time. So Tracy will say, well, what kind of thing is that? So they're using the definitions format. They're telling the category the item belongs to, and it's built in every
Good.
time they need to talk about a word. So I think that's really important for the students, especially the ones that I work with,
Hmm.
to be able to have that organization, and they're working on
Hmm.
categorization and relevant details and not including information they don't need to define the word, but including the details that are important. And they're
That's
hearing others
fantastic.
do that. They can say, wait a minute, that's not the right category,
Right.
or you didn't tell me about the parts that it has, or that sort of thing. So
Hmm.
we did a pre and post assessment, and each student I gave each student feedback on their written post assessment as to what pieces were missing that they would need to think about further. We won't do any
Hmm.
more formal lessons on it. I feel like they got it, and now it's just
Yep.
a matter of practice.
That's fantastic. And if you get to a point where you're starting to feel like, oh, these kids aren't getting it, that's a good time to use that alternative teaching model and pull a small group of students, 2 or 3 students, just kind of like, okay, what did we talk about last time? Okay, great, you got it, good, then back to class. So,
Yeah,
it's
I
a
actually
good
did.
place.
Yeah, I did have to do that the second week. Um,
Hmm.
so it was after the second mini lesson. I was not sure
Okay.
that based on what I had seen that there were 3 boys. I wasn't sure about. One got it, so I sent him back. The other 2 guys really
Okay.
struggled with just recalling the format. What does it look like? What parts does it
Uh-huh.
have? And then applying it. So we did a little
Okay.
polishing, and hopefully
Hmm.
it'll stick better.
Excellent. Well, I'm glad to hear that that went well. And I know that Emily and Tracy kind of got to give me their feedback last week, and they both thought, that it went really well, that it was a good way to really kind of embed you into the classroom and to get you starting to do some of that co-teaching along with the other two. So that's good to hear. So how did last week go? I know we had talked about some assessment ideas and talked about doing some station teaching. So how did it go?
I started a little bit, which I need to do more of, is spot checking some homework. I did that a little bit with some math homework this week with a couple kiddos. And,
Okay.
the first thing in the morning is not a great time for me because I'm usually in another classroom, but I find myself like there was probably 2 days where I was in the classroom and I just kind of went over to their homework pockets and looked at some of their math homework. And it really actually,
Okay.
I had a student that had asked me for help on last night's homework. So that's kind of what
Mhm.
prompted me to realize that I need to be doing that, even though we had talked about it.
Okay. Good. And I think that that's really important that you're kind of staying, when you're not in the classroom, those times when you're not there, that there's an opportunity for you to kind of go over and check and see how things are going. Something that might be helpful for all three of you because you're not all in the classroom at the same time is if there's kind of a shared clipboard that's kept in the classroom, something you can hang right by the door so that it kind of has these are our big ideas for the day. Here are some things that have been happening throughout the day. And it gives, Marie, when you come in, you can just kind of flip through it, say, okay, this is what's going on. Okay, great. I'm up to date. Cool. Emily, when you come in, you can kind of check on it. And Tracy, you can kind of be keeping it up to date throughout the day when you have a spare moment, which I know that they're few and far between.
I was going to say that.
Um, but when you have a spare moment, you can jot something down, and it kind of is a communication log for the three of you
Mm-hmm.
to kind of keep up to date throughout the day. So even Marie, if you're not in the class one day, you can just stop by, grab the clipboard, kind of flip through and say, oh, okay, these are things I need to be thinking about when I come back in,
Mhm.
next week. Or, Marie, the same thing for you also.
Well,
Right.
Tracy's really good too about she posts her big ideas on the board for the week,
Good.
which is great. So those are kind of already there, and I think we do like a little informal communication like that with when I come in. If I notice something's going on with a particular student, I'll write it on a sticky note and leave it on her desk, but I like the idea of
Hmm.
the clipboard that it's a consistent place.
Mhm.
Yeah, and it's just like somewhere that you always have it. I'd put, because you guys have fifth graders, right?
Correct. Yeah.
I'd put something over top of it, like that says
Right.
maybe not that says teacher's board because you know that they'll want to see that, but kind of putting like a piece of cardboard over top of it so that they're not like, oh, what did they say about me? Because I could totally see that happening. But,
Yeah,
just
they are
put it,
nosy.
yeah, they are. Yeah, they are. Yeah. But put it someplace that the three of you know you can access it so
Mhm.
that, when you're not in the classroom, that's something for you to go back to.
Mhm.
Okay. And I
Okay.
remember that from the course that we took this summer where,
Yeah.
if you just have a space, like when I bring my things, they go here. And how many times have you had to return things to me? Because I don't put them here. I put them there and there and there, and they're all over. But having that place to either write a note that so-and-so didn't get this, or is absent today, how's he feeling, or whatever,
Yeah.
just any of that communication.
Yeah,
That's a good
absolutely.
reminder.
That's where that I think I shared with you the co-teaching lesson plan. So there's a space on the co-teaching lesson plan that you can write that, and Dr. Deeker probably talked about that this
Mhm.
summer when she did her training. But
Right.
this is also one of, kind of a good tip just to kind of have that clipboard, have it someplace that you can access it. Texting, I can't tell you, it, it's probably the best tool that we have, believe it or not. Just being able to, Tracy, something happens in the morning and you have to make sure Emily knows before she comes in the afternoon. You just send her a text message. Oh, by the way, this happened, so that she knows before she comes into the classroom. And it's always fun to watch the kids' faces when they're like, "Oh, I didn't know you two talk during the day. How did you know that I
Yeah,
got in
I've gotten
trouble
that
on this?"
before.
Yeah,
Yeah, how did you
so
know that? And it's like, we know everything.
Yeah.
we do, we do. We
One
have
of the
eyes. Go ahead.
I was gonna say one of the interesting things that all three of us got to do this week is we called in a parent and a student to have a meeting. We started with just the parent and discussing sort of our expectations, and it was somebody who wanted to do like help their child a lot more than necessary. And so we
Okay.
had the meeting first with the parent and then brought the student in so we could share sort of the expectations that we were all on the same page. And that was really the first time we had done that, including the student, and it worked really well.
Good, good. I think, as much as it's hard to do that because, you all have such busy schedules, but the more that you can do that, that would be great. Did somebody walk in your room?
Somebody just shut the door. Yeah, we didn't.
For privacy, that's
Okay. You're too noisy. That's what it is.
it's coming through the speaker.
Yeah.
So in the room,
Oh,
the
okay.
notification system.
Got it. Got it. But I think that that's great. How did the parent take it when all three of you were there and they walked in the room and they saw all of you at the same time?
I think, to be honest, it probably wasn't a shock because we're all listed as team members on the
Okay.
plan. So they're accustomed to coming to meetings with multiple people. And in emails, we've all been on the emails
Right.
too. So we've
Hmm.
always sort of approached it as a team that way.
Right. What'll be interesting is if you have a general ed student and Emily and Tracy, you're both in the room, or Marie, you're there also. When the parent comes in and you sit the parent down and say, "So this is what's going on in our classroom."
Yeah.
Would be very
Right.
interesting. And I'm sure there are some you can think of that could probably use one of those meetings. So I
Yeah.
applaud you for doing that. That's great. So we only have a few minutes left. I know we talked a little bit about assessment last week as you were wrapping up a story. So did you come up with ideas for that assessment?
Um, well, we had done the Frindle and the different options for that. I don't think we've moved on to a new
Okay.
story
We
yet. We
haven't,
sort of
yeah.
dug a little deeper into. Ended up we dug deeper into writing this week,
No,
and
that's
started.
great.
And part of the reason for that is that we are working with an outside professional development group to implement Lucy Calkins units of study. So they're kind of helping us
Oh, okay,
unpack.
great.
So we kind
Hmm.
of had to sort of front load a little bit in preparation for the start of that. So.
Okay. Okay, so maybe we could talk about that next week when we all come together. My school that I used up in Massachusetts, we actually used Lucy Calkins as well, and we used it in co-taught classrooms. So I actually think that that would be really interesting for us to talk a little
That
bit about
actually would
next
be
week.
really neat to find Yeah, because that was one of the, we actually had some professional development this morning. And one of the questions I had posed to the instructor was more so, when is my time most useful to be in the classroom for that? And we had talked about, during conferencing time and things like that. So that might be something good for us to follow up on.
Yeah, I think that would be great. Marie, were you able to go to that training as well that the girls went to, or okay? So let's talk a little bit about that next week. Any information you can share with Marie, share that with her, so that way next week when we're all together, we can talk a little bit about that, and maybe we can talk a little bit about conferencing with students and how to, get around to all those students, because that's one of the hardest parts is making sure that you are conferencing with all of them. And excuse me, when with three teachers in the room, sometimes that'll really lend itself quite well. So, all right, ladies. So next week we'll talk about planning and we'll talk about the information. If there's anything specific you want to talk about, send it to me in advance so that I just have it for next week before we meet. And there's a new
Actually,
Google form, but I'll be sending it to you also. That's a little bit shorter than the one you've been filling out before. It's just like 3 questions now. So just after
okay.
the beginning stuff. Go ahead.
Quick question. We have a short week
Yeah,
next week because of the holiday and a professional day. Can we actually meet again on it would be the 22nd, I think?
that's perfect. That's not a problem at all. So the next time we'll meet will be we'll skip next week and then we'll meet again on the 22nd.
And
Perfect.
one
Perfect.
other thing I was thinking,
Not a
Jennifer,
problem.
today that I know we didn't get to talk to was more about Tracy had sent you an assessment that we were going to talk a little bit about like
Hmm.
differentiating or accommodating. Can we kind of keep that on our agenda for future, just
Yeah,
to talk about ways?
yeah, I think that that's a great thing. So let's plan the next time we meet. We'll try and hit both of those topics. We might not get deep into both of them, but we'll see what we can do to get both of them. And I'll send you, Tracy, some feedback that you can
Okay.
share with Marie and Emily as well. So that we'll
Awesome.
share that feedback that I give you on that assessment. How does that work?
Okay.
Excellent.
Thank you.
Thank
Excellent. All
you.
right, ladies. Have a
See
wonderful
you
week.
in 2 weeks.
I'll see you in 2 weeks. Okay.
Yes.
Okay. Bye.
Bye.
Okay. Have a great day. Bye bye.